Welcome to another Ripped Out interview. I am interviewing Average Andy and Chris tonight from Audio Forge. It's going to be a good night. We are going to be looking at their product Audio Forge, which you can go to audioforge.io and log in and check out all of the spaces that they have. I know they have a lot of other stuff coming along, but we just wanted to kind of get a rundown of what the actual product was. And then without further ado, welcome to the show, Andy and Chris. I hope you guys are having a good night, and do a little intro on yourselves.
Yeah, what's up, man? I appreciate you having us on. It's not every day that we get to do them in Discord, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Andy, Average Andy, as most people know me, co-founder of Audio Forge and just lover of spaces in general, and just happy to be here, man.
Well, good. Let's see. I'm sending out the thing right now. Okay, so Audio Forge is a really cool concept, and I just wanted to, see what is the first thing that you want people to know about the product. It's an aggregator of spaces, correct? And I'm sure it's a little more than that.
Yeah, so as it sits right now, it's a spaces archival platform. So we take what we have found to be the top spaces in crypto Twitter specifically, and we have aggregated those, and then we index those and add them to our repo so they can be listened back to at a later time. We find that it makes it a lot easier to search for what you're looking for currently, and then down the line we're going to be adding analytics to that, which opens up a whole can of worms, and you can do a whole bunch of really, really cool stuff with, which is like kind of the current state where we're working on right now. So super fun stuff. And I think we just launched our MVP back in, what was it, February, Chris? I think it was when the MVP launched, which is the current site.
Yeah.
And January, my bad, January. And that's been an awesome ride and a great learning experience, and we're about to just ignite a whole new wave with the version 1.
This is very cool. Like you were saying, it's very easy to search, because I just searched Wrathtank and I can see all of the spaces that I've ever been in, which is really cool. And the way that it indexes, it's picking up the host, but also the speakers in it. So is that all automatic, or are you doing that manually?
So yeah, once we find a particular host that we see does spaces on a regular basis, or is somebody who hosts really interesting things, then that's when we add them to the system, and it automatically indexes it. So if they start a space, even if I'm not around to hit a button or Chris isn't, it automatically indexes that space. We want to make sure that nothing gets missed, because the whole point of it was, I work, I have a day job, and I wasn't able to catch all these spaces. And I don't know if you were here for like Bull Run in 21. But right, I was
silently.
Dude, right after Spaces launched in November of 21, it was massive. Everybody was using it, and there was like, just in my little circle, 2 to 3 concurrently running 20 hours a day, right? And so you can't catch everything.
Right.
And so what I was doing is we built a really bare bones version where I had to manually add them, but it would go and fetch them, and then I could listen to them later. And then, Chris and I got acquainted with each other over the years, and he was like, hey, dude, this thing's actually like really, really cool. We should build this out to a larger scale, so it's not just you, because I started having people going, hey, do you have that one? Like, can I get that also? Because they also miss it. They're either on the other side of the world or just non-accessible at that point. We all have lives and families outside of here, even though it might not seem like it. So
right.
It's a really just a good way for people to catch up on things, and almost like a podcast style format where you can listen at your leisure,
right,
versus having to be live for every single thing, which just isn't always possible.
Yeah. So you were a big fan of spaces before all this, and so this kind of, and this is a good next step for content creation in Web3, is because, I mean, it's a very tailored thing. You're hitting these people that have all these spaces. Now, is this strictly Web3 focused, or is this you're getting all spaces, or is it explain that? What's your target audience for this?
So the target audience currently is Web3. The reason that we started in that particular like vertical is because it's something that we knew kind of what to expect, right? When you're building a product that no one else has built, you want to know that like the data you're looking for is what it should be, right? Because if we were pulling every space, there's tens of thousands of spaces that happen a day on Twitter. It's a kind of a black hole of information that most people don't realize, right? Because it just feeds us our own little bubble. You can't actually really go out and seek everything.
Right.
I think right now there's probably somewhere in the realm of like 2,000 concurrent spaces running at this exact moment. And so to funnel that out and pull them all would be a huge waste of data space. And so we focus right now on just, Web3 because I think there's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah.
But we could scale this platform that we built now to really any vertical. There's some really interesting stuff, especially in like politics. You can scale this up to just politics and build a whole thing around it.
Yeah, you could almost have like a set of categories as you scale and have like Web3 over on the left, or politics, or wellness, and all that other stuff. And it looks like total you have indexed 4,431 spaces total.
So that is the old. We have like an old indexer that's like a rock solid, like never fails, super easy to run indexer. Nice. It's capped at like 60-ish hosts is what that one watches.
Yeah. And
that one's basically just running just to kind of show people what it is. It's a true minimum viable product. Right. Over the last couple of months, Chris has been in the trenches, absolutely just tearing that thing apart and building a newer, bigger, sexier version.
Cool.
And so that indexer has been running for about 6 to 7 months right now. And it's got 4,400, like you said. The new one that's been running for probably 4 months now sits at 33,141. I just checked. Wow. So significant upgrade, a lot more data to take in, and a lot more content for people to really catch up on. And it covers a much larger swath of the crypto and Web3 space.
Nice. So this number that I'm looking at the participants column, and it'll say like 2441. Now, what is that metric? Is that how many people like joined and listened to the whole entire thing, or is that what? Because this is a lot of data that you have at your disposal too. I see that you have analytics.
So that metric is, I wouldn't say broken, but it's actually pulled at the incorrect time. So the way that this particular one worked when we pushed that out was it would pull the file directly when it like found it, essentially.
Yeah.
And after that, it wouldn't go back and recheck things. And so like, if you're looking at the one right now, the very top one about meme coins, it says there's 297 participants.
Yeah.
That might have just been at the time of checking. However, if you go and pull it at the very end, which is what the new one does, it'll give you a better swath of the entire participation of it. So that is stuff that we've had to like kind of mold and figure out, because Twitter's pretty interesting to deal with. And I'm sure Chris can speak a lot more to that because he deals a lot more on the crazy in the weeds side.
Yeah.
But the new one gives a lot more accurate data, which is something that we've really been harping on, because if you have inaccurate data, it's not worth anything. So you really want to make sure that it's up to date and as good as it possibly can be. It's a little bit finicky at times, though. I don't know if Chris wants to go on it, or if he's available to kind of go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I'm totally happy to go in a little bit deeper about the data that we're collecting. There's the timing of the data is important because the space listeners change in a number of different times. They change throughout the space, and then also at the end there's a little bit of a delay, and then they change at the absolute very end. But then you have also offline listeners, which are people who listen to the space afterwards. So there's multiple times that we have to go in and we have to hit up the API to get that information and drag it back into the database. So we have some things set up to make sure that happens reliably.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, at least on this version that is available right now that people could go out to. I mean, if you find a space you want to go back and hit it, I mean, you have it right there to where you can share it. It'll create a tweet for you, and it'll essentially retweet it in an old space and could relive some things. And so, going a little off kilter here, since you guys are into spaces and whatnot, what is your favorite AVAX Spaces moment?
Ooh, AVAX specifically, huh?
Yes, because that's what I know. That's what we're gonna do.
Man.
Because there's some deep cut stuff, at least from the time that I've been around on X. So much has happened in that short amount of time.
Usually mine aren't topic based. Chris has seen this probably more than anybody else. When I am in, VCs in Discord or, on Twitter Spaces, I'm usually in some pretty precarious situations.
Yeah.
It's if I can be available for either, talking on Spaces and helping out people that just need conversationalists or, just listening in. I think the favorite one I've had was actually like, man, this was early 2022. Yeah, kind of like when chicken was really popping off, and I was just getting out of some other, own fork stuff that I was in. And this is, back when I just met Moonbags. This is pre-campfire, so it's probably February of 22.
Yeah.
So they think they launched that in March.
A few months before I got started.
Exactly, dude. I was building a house, my own house that I now live in. I was building that in like it's probably 1 o'clock in the morning. We're hosting Spaces, and I'm on top of a ladder, like trying to unmute stuff while putting this house together. And it was an absolute disaster. But it was those times where you met a lot of people, and I think it's probably been like my favorite, just like craziness. It's like, dude, what am I doing here? We're 1 o'clock in the morning talking about crypto. I'm trying to finish a house before we close on it.
Oh, yeah.
And just absolutely just going crazy. Phones dying because Twitter used to just absolutely eradicate phone battery life, and it's come a long way since then. So I think it's probably like my favorite memory is just meeting people. I think Spaces is actually how Chris and I met, buying farmland, also in a very similar situation.
Oh, yeah.
Probably 1 o'clock in the morning.
Working on stuff around the farm and everything.
Yeah, and we're like, dude, there's like only a couple of these things. We should just buy them. And he's like, I'll buy one if you buy one. And I was like, all right. So, I think that's how Chris and I actually like really met.
Nice.
And so, when you meet on that, you have that, kind of run in, and you can form a lot better relationships than you can just through tweeting, because you can really discuss ideas, and you have a lot more personality, I guess, involved. So I think it's probably my favorite. I don't know if there's one that tops out on AVAX Spaces. You get into some of these other ones though, they say some wild stuff. I don't participate, but you hear some crazy stuff.
Yeah, people seem to be very open with their opinions outside of our little bubble. So yeah,
To say the least.
yeah, I've jumped into some of those spaces. I'm like, what the hell is this? And people used to, I remember the fish 6 hour space or whatever it was, and I remember like some OG Joe Pegs spaces were super fun for me. So I have some good memories of spaces throughout the time, and somehow I've found myself doing them as well. Even though I like broadcasts right now. So speaking of broadcasts, I like that segue. Do you have any interest in doing broadcasts, especially with gamers doing a lot of streaming on X and Web3? Do you see yourself indexing those as well?
Oh yeah, I think that eventually it makes sense to begin.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's not something. See, right now you can only imagine that with this much audio, our storage bills are fairly decently high at the moment.
Yeah.
So like when we move into video, things are going to be much different. Plus, we've got to be able to separate the video and audio, so that way we can do separate things with the audio and the video and on the back end as far as the analytics side of things. So it's going to take a lot more planning to do that. But I think it only makes sense, because even though it has video, it's still technically social audio, right? So like we can extract a lot of information from all of this. Who knows what we can get by watching Twitch streamers? I mean, it's even if we can identify like what games people are playing, you think about the analytics that could come out of that. Like 400,000 people were playing X game yesterday. We know we can know that, right? And that information could be very valuable to somebody.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I would love it too, because I mean, I would love to. I could always go back and find the Ripped Out Radio episodes that I do every day for music, and then go back to some old game streams. I try and highlight them, but I mean, this is super easy. Also, I've noticed that something is wrong with your index. There's no knobs, spaces.
No knob spaces.
Let me ping him and find out what's up with those.
Please do. I've talked to him once there, and so I got to hear his pretty little voice. Let's see. Let's see who's someone else obscure?
Justin's been on spaces. He was just on one last week. I don't know if it's in that index. I don't remember what it was. What was it? Because someone's like, "Oh man, Justin talks." So he's definitely been on spaces before. But yeah, very, very. Yeah, I wouldn't say non-present on the spaces. It's pretty hard to shit post on spaces, I think. So
That's true. You have to have a lot of personality to really kick off with it. Let's see, Disco. There he is. See, this is super chill. You can always find out. He hasn't done many.
no, couple. I think only a couple.
7, and one of them was yours.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when we can roll out the V1. It's like how we refer to it, because like this one's an MVP's minimum, like, just to really prove that it's useful, right? And then that it's worth really putting months of work into upgrading it and making it really robust. And I can't wait till you can go in and since there's a larger swath, a lot of people play not just on AVAX, but they play over in Solana and they play over in Ethereum, and Bitcoin's actually got a significant amount of spaces. But you can see all the different kind of places that people want to spend their time at, and I think it's super important from a branding perspective, for people trying to obtain customers, as far as like blockchains go, where they can find where people spend their time and they can see like, man, these guys really like meme coins, for instance, right? Meme coin spaces are larger than anything, but you're actually seeing gaming spaces encroach on that audience significantly over the last probably 2 weeks.
I've noticed that there's a high amount of audience on some spaces that I've seen Coop and the Gaming on AVAX channel jumping into. It's very interesting. I think there's something brewing.
You want to talk about some people that put in some work?
Yeah.
The Gaming on AVAX account and Coop specifically, they put in work as far as spaces go. Very, very present on games that they're looking to obviously obtain, but games that have launched, they're always there to support them. Huge support from their team. It's really cool to see, because there's not a lot of other ones that do it. What was the other one that does it? Polygon is actually very active as far as like an whatever they are, L1, L2.
They're in L2. Yeah, they were one of the first. For now, until they go full scale L1.
Avalanche L1s, baby, let's
L1.
go.
AVAX 9000.
AVAX 9000.
9000.
No. And hopefully once that, like speaking of 9000, it's like hopefully once that whole picture is painted, that sparks some conversation that people want to have, because I think there's going to be a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it would be very cool to see people doing like kind of like tech focused or like product focused like discussions around AVAX 9000. That'll be very interesting to see. I'm excited about all the gaming stuff, so that's very cool. And so I see the analytics page here is coming soon. Do you guys plan on releasing that with the new indexer, or is it like new indexer and then analytics?
Yeah, so the new product, the V1, essentially, the analytics are all built right into the product already. So that way, when you're looking at a host page or you're looking at a space page, you're going to see all kinds of information that's extrapolated from the data that we get. And then we take it a step further by analyzing that data through LLMs and doing other heuristical stuff to kind of bring some more interesting data to the table. I think it's going to be really, really cool for hosts to see some of the information that we can bring. May help them refine their strategies, understand where their drop-offs are, be able to really hone in the skills as being a space host.
Yeah. Okay, that's super cool. Yeah, and I mean, this website, Chris, I'm assuming this is you? Is it just you and Andy on this? Or Andy, is this
Yeah.
Chris. The website is all Chris, man.
Chris,
if he lets me touch code, things break. So
you have integrations with Gmail login, you got the whole front page, this thing indexed, you're a beast.
Appreciate it.
I'm very, very impressed with all this. And so with you looking at integrating broadcasts and everything soon, which will be super cool, and I would love to get indexed on that. And then the arena is coming out with stages, and they're trying to get that up and running. I don't know if those are actually out yet or not. And then, but have y'all shown any interest on indexing those, or are you just sticking to X?
Yeah, I think if there's energy there, it's probably worth looking into at least.
Yeah.
I've talked to Jason a couple times, and he's kind of let me know it's like, when it's time, we'll give you some more insight.
Yeah.
And so, working on definitely hunting that down, because I think that if they can, I think obviously there's a core audience there that really wants to be involved, and you can even see in the last couple of days, they've been pulling in some really big communities over from Solana, and I think they're going to probably hunt down Ethereum, I would assume, here pretty soon also. And so I think with that level of energy really coming in, I think it would be, naive of us not to look into it. It just depends on what that lift looks like, because I think we're right on the teeter point of being able to launch, what we have here, not in like the next week, but like further out. But I think we're on the teeter point of being able to really make a breakthrough there. And I wouldn't want to, cut our legs out from under us just to add this one thing. So if it's something that I don't think hinders that growth, it's definitely something I want to look into. But obviously, a lot of that weightlifting side turns to Chris, unfortunately, and so we'll kind of see what it looks like. But I think there's going to be some energy there, so it's worth looking into for sure.
Yeah. So you got the API and everything, and you're just ready to go, right?
We do have access.
That's good.
It's yeah. There'll be a way.
There will be a way.
Yep.
We'll figure it out.
We gotta see the product, right? You can't build for what you can't see. And I haven't seen it yet, so I think it's really gonna depend on probably how they build it, how they're handling audio, because even Twitter handles their audio very odd.
Yeah.
And so when you're putting it all together, there's a lot of moving pieces in that. And I think if it was similar to that, if it was kind of like a plug and play, no brainer, right? To do that, but it would take significant resources. We would definitely put it on the map to go do, but probably traipse forward with where we're at currently, because I think there's huge features that we've been getting asked for that we want to really build out, and I think it's going to really solidify the product.
Yeah. So with this being like it's pulling all these different spaces and whatnot, do you plan on doing any content for Audio Forge on Audio Forge? Like, would you think of hosting any kind of self-made, because I know you have a lot of experience in content creation and all that, so I didn't know if you were wanting to ever do educational content through it and have it as like a platform like YouTube where you guys could push out some stuff as well as this other side, or if you're just sticking to this aggregation, pulling everything together.
I'll let Andy answer this one, but I just want to say that like what you're doing tonight with the screencast of the product is something we absolutely need to do. This is so fantastic. This has like been a dream of mine to see this happen, right? Especially through Twitter, like with the advent of broadcasts and like video coming into spaces, like we see, like I would love to be able to do demonstrations like what we're seeing tonight, but I'll let Andy answer the question because he's got much more of a handle on the content than I do.
Yeah, there's definitely ways that like currently I could spoof the system to basically insert like a podcast that I made.
Yeah.
It's not set up for like user injection at this point, like manual injection.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be a far cry in order to do that. It would just be like we would just have to have it a certain way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise it throws off, like obviously if Chris and I did kind of like an office hours sort of podcast, and it was just us and we did it in a closed environment, we could inject that into the site currently, but it wouldn't have any analytics associated with it, so a lot of values would look really off. And so there's some things from like a design perspective that would probably have to change, but I don't think I think if there was enough people saying, hey, I want this, I think that's a good problem to have. And so I think especially as you get more into the AMAs, when you get into like bull run territory, you usually end up seeing more of this, where it's a closed kind of cell, and then people push that content out to different places. I could definitely see it being a hub for, all things Web3 as far as content goes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's already going to give a couple of current platforms a run for its money as far as depth of content
Yeah.
and what you can derive from that. So I think that just adding that would be icing on the cake. So if there's a want for it, I don't foresee us turning it down for sure.
Yeah. That would be cool. I mean, I like the whole concept. It's very content focused, and content is king in our space. So I think that's a very cool direction that you're doing that. And then I'm gonna switch gears a second because and talk about you, Andy, a little bit. You've sent me some MP3s for the DMV waiting room, and talk a little bit about your talents, because you have a lot of skills here. You're creating this with Chris. You have the mindset behind it, and you're able to produce music, and you have a lot of hidden talents behind that. So what exactly inspires you to create, and what's your goal with creation? Do you just enjoy doing it, or are you trying to accomplish more with it?
A lot of it comes from just like enjoying it, right? So especially when it comes to, like, for instance, the music stuff. I'm not a musician by any means. Can't classically play any instrument.
You know, a lot about a little, and you can do it in Fruity Loops. Is that what it is? Because that's what
I can put a lot together,
Yes.
right? So I can either generate loops, or I can generate pieces of songs, and then if something doesn't sound correct, I can fix it, which is usually like what I'm more prominently good at.
Yeah.
Is I can't create it from scratch, right?
Yeah.
I'll leave that to somebody much more professional than myself. But I can understand when something is not correct, and I can learn how to fix it.
Yeah.
And so the way that I like to, create is usually through necessity, where it's like, oh man, we want some waiting room music. I was like, man, I got some time tonight, right? And it's just a good time filler. It allows me to turn my brain off from, like, my day job is pretty brain intense at times, and so allows me to just kind of like shut that off and just go into La La Land and get lost in headphones,
Yeah.
But that's kind of where the creative side comes from. Obviously Chris and I have done NFTs. I launched a collection called Dots a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
I love the Dots. Dots was it's still to this day a very, very cool NFT collection.
That was a labor of love. That was one of those ADD, rabbit holes that I got sent down for 3.5 months. So that was like probably close to 200 lines of code that created those, that I just learned from scratch and just never knew what I was doing. And I was like, man, I really want to do this. All right, research for 2 weeks. All right, now I can make it do that. So,
and then you even did physical prints with that one.
Yeah. So all the legendaries got physical prints, either on metal or canvas, shipped to them anywhere in the world. So that was the whole thing. Made, I think, maybe $50 total, like, to me personally for it.
Yeah.
That just wasn't the point.
Yeah.
The point was, like, make cool stuff. If people want to buy it, cool. If they don't, they don't. And then the funds were set up specifically to the exact amount it would take for me to ship those items anywhere in the world.
Nice.
And cover the cost of that. So it was just more of I'm really big on, like, I will facilitate an idea to an MVP state and then just see if it's interesting to people. I think that representations of something like on the blockchain, but then holding the physical version is a very interesting thing. And
it's super cool.
It's just underutilized, and I like to show that it could be done.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of, where that concept for that specific thing came from. And I enjoyed that process, for the same thing of, like, music.
Yeah.
And building this with Chris is that same itch, where it's very creative, because I can't think of a single thing in this entire platform that is like an off-the-shelf plug and play solution. You can't go to Wix and be like, I want, a Twitter Spaces like, indexer. Doesn't exist.
This thing is built. This is
so
not just
everything's
simple.
a problem. Yeah, everything's
a problem. That's probably Chris's whole MO. I mean, he has hoppers right now in his freaking tool belt and helping with Doggerinos and all that stuff. And dude is got
he's a tank.
Yeah, you got your hands full, dude, with things that are troublesome.
You have no idea. Wait till you hear what we got in store for you guys next, man. I mean, I'm in the anyway. I won't even want to get into it, but we got something big in store.
I'm excited. Every time you release something is cool, so I'm excited for that. And I mean, you've had your hands in a lot of websites too, Chris. I mean, you're a beast on that. You did you do the Cloudheads site too?
Yeah, I did the Cloudheads ecosystem and a couple of NFT marketplaces. Yeah, been busy.
Yeah, I would say so. Do you like to work? It sounds like
that's about all I do. Yeah, I mean, like sitting in front of the computer 18 hours a day for the last 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And it goes further than that too, because you got the MetaPep site, the Moonbeam site. What was the other one?
MetaPep site.
Oh, the Pixel Ponies.
Yeah, Pixel Ponies. There's the
those MetaPep spaces were so much fun.
Dude, they still are every Monday. What are you talking about? We had a great time, man. We had Aaron Buchwald on right after he took over the Hyper SDK. He hopped into that space unbeknownst to us, and then we just had like a 45-minute brain dump from one of the most brilliant, probably blockchain engineers.
Yeah, really unbelievable, actually. I mean, I could talk to that guy for days.
I don't see them indexed. I'm looking.
No, that one's definitely there. Yeah, it's MetaPep Monday.
MetaPep. Because
MetaPep is actually, that specific space is unrecorded on X, but it is recorded on AudioForge. So if you do want to listen to that, you can go to AudioForge.
I had to do a refresh. There we go. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I can go back to it.
Yep. Nice. Yeah, it's the only place that you'll be able to go back to. It's the only place that particular file exists is on AudioForge. And
yeah, archiving unrecorded spaces is a secret weapon.
Oh, that is dope. And it's also scary, but that's dope.
Yeah, a lot of it actually, it's interesting because we've heard kind of that same style of like thinking, right? Where it's like, man, it's scary. I've gotten more DMs from large groups and companies, because this is how we found out it was a problem, is so, people like Ava Labs, when they first started doing spaces, or Trader Joe also actually ran into this problem as well. They didn't know that you had to hit the record button.
Oh, so they missed out on stuff.
So you had like 5 or 6 episodes that just never existed. And they were like, dude, we really want, because they were interviewing somebody, or there was somebody who came up with a really cool idea. And they're like, can we snip that? And I'm like, no, that file doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You can't go get that. Exactly. So we've actually saved a couple of people's tales that do repurpose the content into podcasts because they forgot to click the button. Because for the longest time it reset every time.
Right.
And I think right now it sticks now, but it used to reset. And so
I used to not record, and now I record mine. And
yeah,
I remember Disco got on my ass for not recording one with him.
Well, it's a huge thing because instead of us, right? I'm Central Time Zone. Chris is over there on the East. I think you're somewhere over there also.
I'm in Central.
But it's like
I'm in Central too. I'm one of the.
We're
like one of the 3 people in Central.
I know, right? But so like we always think of like everyone in spaces as American, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of other people aren't, and so we have people over in the UK that are like, hey, I missed that space because it was at 10 p.m. your time, which is like 6 a.m. their time.
Right.
And they're like, dude, I couldn't make that,
Yeah.
And so it's been a huge thing for them to just catch up with their own community. And so just the reach that it's allowed to get worldwide on people that they didn't realize that they were missing, I think has been huge just for people to be retained. And so that's kind of like how we view it. And I think it's just a great feature.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Second largest market for space listeners and hosts is Japan. So
No
there's a lot of
shit.
Japanese space happening. I mean, even and also third would be like Arabic. Today I was on a space. There was over 1,000 people in there. It was all in Arabic. They were all speaking Arabic. They're talking about Bitcoin, and it was
That's
just like super
incredible.
fast. I mean, I had no idea really what was being said, but I was trying to catch, trying to check the jumbotron and click the links and figure out what the hell they're talking about. But they were talking about Bitcoin. They were saying that how they're bullish. It was unbelievable, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, and
That's
you'd be
dope.
surprised. Like, it's a lot closer than you'd think. It's like almost 1-to-1 now. Japan's been growing pretty quick, and it's almost 1-to-1 with the U.S. or English speakers. It actually just groups
Yeah.
them into English, so it
Okay.
actually could be UK or
Yeah.
America based on the time.
Yeah, I think the power play is going to be when you, like, as a space host, can see if you've been mentioned or talked about in other languages in other spaces in related content, right? I think that's going to be really interesting to see because, we know that Avalanche has presence all over the world with different accounts, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Portugal, they have Avalanche. Italy, they have Avalanche. Japan, like, and they're also participating in spaces and they're also talking about things. So, but we as content creators in the space have no visibility into that, right? So we're
Right.
hoping that Audio Forge is like the way we can bring all that back together and give you like a global view of what's going on about you and your brand and your project or whatnot without having to worry about translating 4 different languages.
Yeah.
But that's way off in the future. It's just kind of like something that's on my mind.
No, that's super cool. I mean, that you're right. I mean, the algorithm is our greatest friend and foe because we don't always see everything outside of that, and so this could bring that all together. And this is super cool. I keep seeing this every time that I search someone. I see the meow space when Meow first launched, and everyone's just meowing for like an hour. That's a great space. I am so happy seeing that one pop up. I just typed it.
Just wait till you see transcriptions and it's just meow meow meow
Oh,
meow
that
meow
would
for
be
like.
so funny. I would love that. And yeah, I bet you could. Are y'all doing anything in AI to do the transcription super easy? Because I know y'all are pretty slick with the
Man, when you
diffusion
say
and all
super
that.
easy, I love how you phrase that because it's everything but the exact way that you phrased it.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Go with what I was saying. Just
No, it's something we're definitely working on. There's a couple different ways to slice the pie, and it's just figuring out which way works best and is scalable.
yeah.
Because I don't know if you've we didn't have a problem doing it with like AI and like basically farming it out to somewhere.
Yeah.
When there was only 20 spaces coming in today, we're like, it's like $10 a day. We can run that for quite a significant amount of time. No big
Right.
deal, right?
Yeah.
And then we really dug in our heels, and Chris really went to town and picked this thing up and said, "Hey, I want you to try to break this." And we went up over 1,000 hosts, and then we hit that little mini bowl, where, man, Bitcoin's at 72 or 74,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
AVAX is at 60, Sol's at 200. People, it's a leading indicator. We found amount of spaces per day, trends pre price action. So it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of different ways that you can do like market prediction with the stuff that we're doing. But it was really interesting to like see that, because we're like, okay, that's not scalable. Like,
Right.
You're talking hundreds of dollars a day for extended amounts of time until people just stop hosting. Like, that's not good.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to revisit the drawing board. So it's definitely doable. It's just getting it to be really good, consistent, and making sure that data is portrayed the way it should be and is available to all the spaces that are being picked up.
Oh yeah. Dope. And then it wouldn't be a space with where I have Chris held hostage. How's Hoppers going?
Hoppers, oh boy,
It's just so
Hoppers
fun
is-
because it makes Studley so happy, and I love seeing Studley happy, so I had to ask.
me too, actually, and he is doing. Dudley's doing an absolute fantastic job with the Coop memes. I mean,
Oh
I
my
just
God,
absolutely
he's-
like. Occasionally, I'm like, oh man, I can't look, but I'm like, I gotta look.
Have
I
you
mean, what
seen
can I do?
his caricature of me? He's got the
I have
silver.
not.
He's got the silver lining pawn guy from the the New Orleans pawn shop guy. That's me, and it's so funny because the dude has a double chin. And he's old. It's so funny. It's so good.
I gotta see that.
Yeah, just search
so-
my name in his profile. You'll find it.
So I just want to say, like, Hoppers is something that we not a week goes by that we don't make some kind of progress on some kind of initiative that we have internally to do what we're going to do with that.
Yeah.
It's and I feel like we have a lot of great ideas. Like we have some amazing plan to re-release the product and to get it back out there and people to play it. But I really firmly believe that the timing in which that release happens is extremely important.
Oh yeah, it's make or break by the second.
And the community is extremely patient, and that's we're very grateful for that. But really, actually, a lot of this comes back to you, dude. I mean, you are one of the few groups of people with the Ripped Out and that keep NFTs alive with a heartbeat on the chain. And I see that, and it's so important, right? Because we've gone through some tumultuous times with NFTs on the chain, and to see you keep trucking forward, to see Doggerino's trucking forward, to see some of the new collections that are coming out, like No Chill and Dilio and stuff like that. It's so good to see. It really is. So
because it's fun. They're collectibles, and I really feel like there's such an open opportunity here to build a brand, and it's so handed to you on a silver platter if you really want to go for it and build a brand. And that's something I've always wanted to do and go for, and that's kind of what I'm doing with Ripped Out and AD and all that. And especially since the cost of customer acquisition in Web3 is pennies, so it's super easy to find someone that likes your stuff and you can kind of push it, especially if you put passion behind it. So I like to really help people that are passionate about the things that they make.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So super happy to see you growing in that direction. You've definitely created something really cool here with the Ripped Out and everything that you're doing.
Well, I
love
appreciate
it.
that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I mean, for y'all, and I really appreciate y'all coming out. I'm getting close on time. Is there anything that y'all wanted to cover before we ended all this? Andy, Chris. Okay, you were thinking.
Well, I did want to say one thing that before Audio Forge, Andy and I were kind of experimenting with some really funky space stuff. Do you remember the space portal?
Dude.
What's the space portal?
Okay,
that was so cool.
Dude, okay, so the space portal, we'll take 2 minutes for the space portal. It's pretty interesting.
Oh, it's chill. I was just winding down.
The space portal is essentially something that allowed you to take spaces A and the entire spaces could attend spaces B as one speaker. And so it was a very interesting way to infiltrate another spaces under the guise of one person. So essentially, if we had the Ripped Out account, for instance, it could attend spaces B. All of us could be in spaces A, but still as an entire community participate in B. And so they'd be like, wait a second, how is Andy and Chris and Wrath and Keeks all talking from the Ripped Out account? And so you'd actually be tunneling your way into a different space. And so that was the spaces portal. But you could infinitely scale it, essentially.
That's so cool. Yeah, that
so
would have been cool.
You could have 10 different speakers as 10 different spaces. So you could essentially have near 100 different speakers if you really wanted to in one spaces. But it was a very interesting endeavor when we went into that sort of mindset. But there's many cables that were ordered for Chris to build his, and then I built mine a little bit differently. But
my office looked like Radio Shack.
Well, cool.
But no, dude, that's the kind of stuff we like doing with spaces. Spaces just introduced video into the spaces, not a stream. And so we've been trying to figure out how to hack our way into screen sharing, because you can't launch it from a desktop currently.
Right. Yeah, you have to do OBS and do the broadcasts and all that, which is kind of why I go that route when I do things like this.
Yeah, but we just think it'd be so cool to be able to do kind of what you're doing here as an AMA, though, open to the public.
Yeah, that would
and
be cool.
Be able to share the screen, because there's stuff that we can do internally that's not on any sort of front end right now, right? So if somebody wanted to, we could set up the data so I could go, hey, here's the last 10 spaces of XYZ host. What do you guys want to know about the whole swath of information? And then we could kind of go through it together and be like, let's go find what the most said keywords were, and we could run that, and we could figure out what it was. And you could kind of take people on this journey where you're just like missing that little piece currently, where it's like we could still do that, but there's a certain point of like seeing that like allows people to just like click in their heads. And so I think that'd be super fun to do, but it's just not quite there on Twitter itself.
Right.
And so you kind of have to like hodgepodge it together to get it to work. Or I've seen people tripod their phones in front of the phone or in front of the computer screen, which I thought was like, it works, but it's like, it's just not quite there, you know?
Right.
And so, and it only works in portrait, and like there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to kind of account for. So, you know, that's, I think, something that we're just playing with on the side. We like those kind of side quests when you're, you know, kind of going through all of this sort of stuff. But we met a lot of cool people through this initiative, and you know, a lot of hosts are really looking forward to using this as a way to connect more with their communities. So look forward to having more of those conversations with them as well.
Oh yeah. And one thing that I think would be cool, and hear me out, if we had a Discord bot that you could throw into Rip now, and we could just get every time that a new space gets indexed, it lets you know. I think I bothered you about that a whole
It's
bunch.
almost like that's entirely possible. Yeah, you can definitely do that. That's kind of one of the unspokens about what's possible, because we haven't figured out where that kind of sits inside the product offering. But yeah, we have a fire hose in our own personal stuff where it's every single spaces that's indexed. Anytime it starts or ends, we have a notification for it. So
that's cool.
You could definitely pare that down to fit a specific community.
Since you have the Twitter API already, couldn't you do that have like an AudioForge bot on Twitter too?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah,
we could do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think that
would. We'd probably run up those run up the rate limit pretty quickly.
You probably would. All of this.
I think the challenge there with something like that is to like, how do we prioritize what goes in there, right? Because there's, I mean, the Discord bot that we have now just goes off nonstop. I mean, it's just today was 260 spaces. Average was talking about like how the number of spaces per day goes up and down. Yeah. You know, when price actions is going sideways, it goes down to like 100 or 120 spaces a day. But today we had 260, so that'd be quite a bit of tweeting, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, if you go, if you're in our Discord where you pop it up, you can go to the shitcoin monitoring channel, and you can see that. I mean, that runs all day long.
Dude, it's wild, you know. And at the peak, I think we were doing I think there was a day where we just touched 600 spaces in a single 24-hour period.
Oh, that must have been.
And so it's like, well, yeah, that's like peak euphoria, right? Like everyone's like, this is finally it, you know, and everyone's freaking out, and you know, it's just a culmination of a lot of different things. And I presume we'll see one of those later this year, as well as you know, come to, you know, rate cuts and elections and all this sort of stuff, as that all combines into one event. And if the right mixture of those things comes together along with price action, I think you're going to see an absolute wild eruption of spaces. And so it's making sure that we're ready for when that eruption happens, and help people just kind of make the best decisions that they can using the data that we can provide them.
Oh yeah. Very cool. Well, I am running out of time, so I want to say thank you both for being here, and thank you for everyone for watching. AudioForge is super cool. Great product, audioforge.io. If you're remotely into spaces and Web3, this is a no-brainer. This should be a tab or a bookmark in your browser, because you can always go back and share stuff. It gets eyes on your project, especially if you're a founder or someone that's running a community. You can aggregate all of yours together and just be able to ship them out. And again, thank you, Andy and Chris, for being here. And that will be it for us. So if you guys want to say bye-bye, and then I will stop the stream. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you having us on. And Wrath, the little tidbit of information for you, because I know that you're going to ruthlessly shill this to everyone once it comes out. There will be a creators page, and so you will be able to just ship them every single spaces that you've done all in one tab. So
God bless you.
You'll just be able to frivolously shill that.
Oh, I love when people make it easier for me to throw my content around. You're a blessing in disguise, my friend.
For sure, man. That was something that we had dreamed up for this next release. But I appreciate you having us on, man.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute blast. And
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, guys.